we never looked back. The clear direction was born out of just getting smarter, bigger, in being able to expand the opportunity set of taking on enough clients to know what accredited investors wanted and needed, and as opposed to being purely a mutual fund shop, which was so nice to be able to learn a lot along the way from a lot of other mentors and other investment gurus. Plus, growing up here in the market, having friends that were in the real estate industry was a nice dovetail to create Clear Direction Investments as a brand a long time ago.
Hey everybody, Justin Neagle here with Spot Migration and another episode of Building Scale, specifically the Building Connections series, where we've partnered with Keymakers, a C-level networking group here out of Arizona that has given me the opportunity to meet amazing individuals just like Randy Stoltz here from Clear Direction Investments. He has quite the interesting story because he started with video brochures, which was very intriguing as a business, and then campus advisors, and then eventually ending up with financial planning, which he is currently still in with, obviously, Clear Direction. We talk about how do you build a real relationship, the face-to-face interactions that are necessary, and meeting people actually in person, not just in the digital sense, which I love. We get into the three-legged stool approach that they have for investments, including traditional investments, private placement real estate, and transitional planning. And we get in pretty depth about how long-term relationships are actually built and how you can't just wish it there. You have to, build it on trust and personalized service, and then you have to exceed expectations for people. So this is quite a good one. And Randy even mentions the fact that getting in touch with them, they have phones, not just cell phones, landlines, and that, that's really how you can really put a person first. And that's one of the things that they like to emphasize, putting people first and prioritizing their needs, right? Like leading them to successful financial planning and investment management is people first is the attitude. I had a good time during this call, and I hope you do too. So here's a taste of the day that we got together and we talked a little bit about shop. So I hope this is impactful as it for you as it was for me. Hey, Randy, this is exciting for me. It's always cool to start meeting new people. We met actually a couple Keymaker events, and then we met online. And then in between those two Keymaker events, I was like, oh yeah, I met Randy at this event, but then didn't put together the two pieces that made sense in the connections, which silly me in the digital world compared to the real world. They're very, very different. So I'm really excited to have you on the show for the Building Connections, and would love to start off asking you about your philosophy on making connections. Obviously, the world that you've lived through has gone through the very in-person. You've gone through digital transformation of components back to in-person, however those things go. So what's your philosophy when you're trying to meet somebody, trying to actually build a real relationship with them?
Well, I'm a face-to-face preference business guy, so always have been, always will. I really don't dig having Zoom meetings or Teams meetings if I can avoid it. There's a lot of efficiencies in it, obviously, when you're dozens or hundreds of miles away. But in terms of making relationships, the reason why Keymakers made a ton of sense for me is I'm in my backyard. I'm a native of Old Town Scottsdale, Arizona, before it was called Old Town. Right. So it was just Scottsdale, and then it turned into South Scottsdale. Now it's called, Old Town. But, when in my previous businesses, which were only really two prior to getting into the investment or asset management business, it was all face-to-face. There was no such thing as all this tech stuff and recordings and so on. So I just carry that. And so I like to meet people, at happy hours or for breakfast, that type of thing, put a name with a face, and then follow up with calls and follow up with, some of the Teams meetings. So if that's what you're getting at. So Keymakers was ideal. Meet other like-minded business owners and operators that, feel the same way.
Yeah, and you're quite the serial entrepreneur, as I put. I actually don't know how many businesses you've had to have been part of to be considered serial, but to me, right out of college, you were right into the gate, which you just informed me of, which I love that story. You want to talk a little bit about the video life prior to the financial life that you had?
It's interesting you ask in that being a homegrown native, for whatever reason, I chose to go to Arizona State, marketing major, finance guy. Yeah, Sun Devils, and was rather interesting because here I am in my senior year. It's time, graduating in a few months, time to interview, and I remember getting this phone call from some guy at Motorola that because my dad worked there and offered me the job to sell pagers at the time. Pagers. If you can remember what pagers were, that was a big thing. And then at a similar time, I was, because I was still finishing up a couple of semesters, I was a server waiting tables at local Tempe restaurant. And my assistant manager had this idea of this video production company. And it wasn't so much about producing videos for a living, but it was making a television program, which ended up being successful. It was called Valley Video Guide. And, this was in the late 80s, early 90s. And so many of it sounded appealing. We didn't know diddly squat at the time. What was I, 22, 23? My partner was, barely 30, but he was a kind of a video nerd geek and wanted to learn things. He didn't know a whole lot, but he wanted to learn it. And I didn't want to sell pagers for Motorola. So we pulled together credit cards, literally took money out of our credit cards and rented an office. How stupid is that? Actually rented an office. All of a sudden overhead goes up and we're like, we can't pay ourselves, but we can pay rent. But we struggled through it, made a little bit of money. Basically, we created this TV show, which telecasts privately with VCRs into the guest rooms of hotels and resorts in Scottsdale and Phoenix. Made enough to be dangerous, caught the eyes of our competition at the time. Guy called us, said, hey, my name is, you booted me out of a hotel. Who are you? And would you like to partner up? Well, yeah, if you got money, we'd love to partner up. So we flew out to meet with this multimillionaire, nicest guy ever. And he said, well, listen, I got the person that's running my company, I don't think is the best operator. So let's partner. How much money do you need? Shook hands, no contract. And the next day he wired us $200,000. I mean, and that was then.
Wow.
That was a long time ago. So we bought equipment and became a video production firm and did a lot more cool projects thereafter. But that was the impetus to it all. So that was my first real business, not counting delivering newspapers and cutting grass for a living as a kid. But that was quite the experience. That was an 11 or 12 year run from the mid 80s until the late 90s, and when I jumped into the investment or insurance industry.
So jumping into investments, when did Clear Direction come? When did it become clear that was the place that you wanted to be and start?
Pun intended, right, Justin?
Yes, absolutely.
So I started the financial services world through New York Life Insurance, of all places. The story, the why them versus a different angle, who knows? You always ask yourself, I could have turned left and said I turned right, but that's where I landed. And the insurance world, if I had to do it over again, I probably would do the same thing, because I sold a fair amount of insurance. I wasn't any big top producer, but I learned a ton about life insurance, long-term care, disability income insurance, long-term care insurance, et cetera. And they, as a company, they're excellent at insurance. That's their business, and they have this investment component, but that's just not their strong set. But I liked the planning side. I liked making relationships with the whole of a client, not just their insurance guy. So I struggled with their business model to the extent that it was time to move on and become completely self-employed. And I created a business at the time called Campus Advisors. And Campus Advisors was purely a college financial planning business, which was awesome because it led me to open up the financial planning world of, we call ourselves Stoltz Financial Partners. And this was, in the early 90s and or around 2001, excuse me. And Campus Advisors, I've spoken to all sorts of high schools, great high schools here in Phoenix and Scottsdale, to the parents of college-bound students on the expense of college, the financial aid realities, or the lack of financial aid, what types was available, et cetera. And that morphed into a lot of financial planning. And that's what I really wanted to do. So I departed New York Life because they didn't want me to do that. They wanted me to sell insurance and sell their investments, which, again, they're not known as an investment firm. So the pure self-employment started. Now we're at two, and we never looked back. The clear direction was born out of just getting smarter, bigger, in being able to expand the opportunity set of taking on enough clients to know what accredited investors wanted and needed, and as opposed to being purely a mutual fund shop, which was so nice to be able to learn a lot along the way from a lot of other mentors and other investment gurus. Plus, growing up here in the market, having friends that were in the real estate industry was a nice dovetail to create Clear Direction Investments as a brand a long time ago.
You mentioned real estate. That's one of the areas that is a differentiator, is a place that you feel that investments are a good idea at times when appropriate. I want to say that in the most compliant way, certainly as possible. So explain the three-legged stool that you kind of explained to me in that diversification.
Clear Direction Investments is, at its core, we're an asset management firm, and the differentiator there, as opposed to calling myself a financial advisor or wealth manager, is because approximately half of our investments are into what I'll refer to as private placement real estate. And so if you were to look at our website as an example, and to answer your question about the three-legged stool that I speak of on the site, and also as you and I were getting to know each other, it's because we do transitional planning, which is a little bit of business succession planning. Transitional can also mean a lot of things, which would include in insurance. And but a lot of the investments come down to the two biggest legs of that stool, which is traditional investments, which would be stocks and bonds and exchange traded funds. The liquid investments that everyone's familiar with. We're not a huge believer in mutual funds per se, but that's a conversation for a different day. But the other half is real estate, and I don't mean I'm not a licensed Arizona real estate broker or agent that's looking to list your home or help someone buy a commercial building, albeit I have a lot of contacts in that industry. But I'll refer to this a lot as securitized real estate, because the securities broker dealer that I work under or through happens to be called Concord, but they provide access to lots of different investment firms that hold real estate and provide real estate offerings for different situations, whether it's in the 1031 exchange space, whether it's in just someone who wants to invest $100,000 as an example into a fractional interest into a number of different real estate categories, whether it's multifamily or self-storage units or hotels, etc. That's a really big differentiator for Clear Direction Investments, is having the ability to offer accredited investors way more than just stocks, bonds, and ETFs. And it's been great for us and a nice win-win for our clients as well.
What do you find that people miss when thinking about investments? If it's assets or if it's your, more traditional investment, what do people not know? What are their blind spots? We talk with lots of owners, lots of CEOs all the time, and we don't go down the path of what are you doing, fiscally for your investments, but I'm sure that there's questions that come up of saying, I run this business is my, depending on where it is in life, this could be part of my retirement plan or the thing I'm going to, give over to my kids or things like that. So where are just kind of holes where maybe people, if they knew about, would be, more intrigued to have a conversation?
Well, I think your question delves into why would somebody want to hire or use Clear Direction Investments over,
Sure.
Some other, like a wirehouse firm or someone like that. And to that extent, outside of understanding, at least two or three of our stool legs that we have, on our, as I said a moment ago, which includes traditional investments along with the packaged private placement real estate investments. It's that, we're able to provide that we deliver on our slogan, and our slogan is people first, finances second. And all that's, meant to come across is that, we're not a firm that's going to only do business with you over the phone or only through a Teams or a Zoom. I mean, most of our clients are here in Arizona, unless they've moved and they've gone to, Alabama or somewhere in between. So it's again, that's that person to person interaction. Everyone comes to our office, and what people enjoy about that is because, we're here to serve and provide a bit of FedEx efficiency with a Four Seasons or a Ritz hotel resort style experience. And that's what we're really trying to deliver, is to give somebody or that experience. I always want to put myself in client shoes. If I think if we do one thing very, very well is that I'm always striving to improve upon that, as well as imbue that philosophy to my wonderful team. And that is, if you're that woman or that guy sitting across from the conference table, what do you really want? What do you need? And are we a match? And can we help guide you from point A to point D, and everywhere in between? So I don't know if that answers your question, but I believe we do that job very, very well. We really strive to provide that people first, finances second philosophy in all we do. And then the differentiator, being able to offer different styles of investments and guide people accordingly to give them a difference of not having everything in the market. Because if you have everything in the market, it just gets frustrating for people. And some people, that's the best place for them, as long as they have the right, long-term attitude in anything investments. But I think to get to the core of your question, so I'll give you the better answer or the deeper answer about what people seem to miss, is because of technology and being able to see on your phone with pretty much any free app that's available, is people are judging the success of the investments on a minute by minute or a day by day basis. And that's what people miss, is they don't look at the long-term view of turning off the television and not reading every article that comes through, because 2/3 of articles are negative by design, because that's what attracts eyeballs, and eyeballs attract advertisers.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned the long-term approach. There are certainly, with all of the digital coins, all of these things where things are moving so fast, and there's these stories that you see that, I exploded, I got so much money, and all these things. An actor, effectively. How do you combat the fact that people do want a fast result? And that's life, not just always finance. I want things to be done immediately. But that, in your experience, I have to imagine that's not how it works. You can't just, if everybody could just give you money and then 2 days later, have tripled it, everyone would give you all of their money all the time. So how do you combat the reality compared to what's being shown on Instagram or whatever social media platform they're looking at?
Actually, Justin, I don't run across that type of expectation in my world. And maybe it's because most of our clients are between 55 and 75. And, they've, so every now and then we run across that mindset, and we're not a fit for everybody. I mean, I don't own Bitcoin. I don't know if I ever will. Yeah, certainly I know what the cost or the price of a share of Bitcoin is today. And I compare the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin being the Coca-Cola of crypto. Yep. I look at other commodities that really motivate me to understand what's going on in the marketplace. Oil and gas being the bigger ones there, and you look at gold. I'm not a gold. I don't believe in owning a gold per se. Yes, it's take a run up lately, and I understand why. But some asset classes we just don't really endorse, and I have reasons for that. But yeah, hey, granted, just to be purely profit, if I could have turned the clock hands back, I would have bought Bitcoin when it was even 5,000. But I you have to understand. That's what Warren Buffett. That's one of his many Buffettisms, is don't invest in what you don't understand. And he's got a lot of good little Buffettisms that you can get lost. You can find those on the internet, but. So we're not a fast growing, promising type of a scenario. It just, I don't know if I'm giving you the best answer to the question you posing.
Totally are. I can appreciate that totally.
Tried, and sorry to talking over. Yeah, we're just we're not old fashioned. But we are tried and true. And I want to make sure that people understand what investments are and what types of investments are probably a good success. And I say that word probably, because everything, things disappoint on a daily basis when you follow the market. And that doesn't happen that much in real estate, because real estate doesn't get priced by the minute, by the day. And that's why, I like it, among other reasons, because when you look at it in 5 and 10 year cycles, if you do that with the stock market, then you're going to be happier camper, because you pretty much need to do that with real estate. There's always exceptions, and some people have been able to buy a property and, get a much better offer on it in a month or a year, and they do flips, and there's always exceptions and great stories out there. But, everyone wants to make as much as possible and have no risk. So the biggest challenge in my world in investment management, asset management, is to make sure that people understand that there's no such thing. If that was the case, you'd be in CDs forever. But once they understand that risk takes time, and we're in the forefront of helping manage that risk, which means managing clients' expectations and holding accountable the men and women and all the real estate operators that we work with, and or my registered investment advisory partners back in St. Paul, Minnesota, called Stonebridge Capital Advisors. We're managing teams, we're managing client relationships, and it's exciting. And it's not easy, but if it was, everybody would be in this business.
Yeah, if it was easy, I'd be there. I'd be doing it, right? So that's what I actually frequently ask, if you could go back 20 years, what would you tell yourself? But I always have to preface that with, like, sans buying Google stock and Apple stock and Bitcoin. Like, forget that. What other advice would you give yourself? So I can certainly appreciate the, hindsight's always 20/20, right, as they say. So that makes sense. So you mentioned more relationship stuff. You also have built a team for the firm. So tell me about that, and how did that work? Working at working for people to then, in your own practice, to then going off and building your own team.
Well, when you get started in this business, you're your own person. I mean, you don't just magically have enough money to open up your own, nice office with a staff. So you start from zero, and eventually you hope to get to hero someday. And along the way is a lot of planning. And you've got to continue to earn more, and you don't earn more unless you're making your clients happy and your investment performance is on par with their expectations. So I don't know if this gets to your question, but here in my Scottsdale office, I have 4 wonderful staff, all centered around operations, and we have my son Carson has been my operations manager for 4 years. He joined my business a year after college, and now he's transitioning into full-time asset management. And we're looking for an operations director over the next few months to transition a lot of the roles to that new person, whoever that is. But it's been interesting. I look back in the last 10 years of where we've come from to where we're at now. It's phenomenal. And then having good operational support is absolutely key to growing business, and because we're very detail oriented. We have so many controls in place now that we didn't have even 2 or 3 years ago, where the minutest of detail, everything's got to get written down and followed up on a daily basis. Some things have to be executed within 2 hours or less, some 2 days, sometimes 2 weeks. And we're always managing requests all across the board, not just onboarding new business, but we have a lot of clients that need service, and we're here as that go-between to make sure that things they request that we can touch and influence are getting done. And that includes managing my teams in Minnesota, versus in addition to the various folks that run the private placement real estate or the transactions. So that it's not easy, but we've been very blessed because our relationships with our securities dealer in Michigan, that they vet and provide us very well-principled operators in these private placement or securitized real estate investments that we would not be able to do that purely on our own. I hope that makes some sense to you and some of the listeners.
Yeah. Working with family is always interesting. How's that gone? Good enough to be there for 4 years already?
Yeah, almost 5 actually. At the end of the summer, we're at the 5th year. So
awesome.
This is Carson is now he's 30, and he didn't get a degree in finance or marketing like I did, his dad. He got but his degree in communications, but a very very well organized young man. Thankfully, by the grace of God, and but he's my wife, his mother, also, runs a business. It's like a legal insurance and ID theft protection insurance oriented company called Legal Shield or ID Shield Services. But the point is she's been doing that full-time, part-time, full-time for 20 plus years. And me, I've been in this business. I've been self-employed ever since he was born. And so having this 25, now 26-year run, this is all he's really known, because he would have been 4 when I started. And so he goes to college, gets his degree, does, works for some car dealer up in Flagstaff for a year, comes back to Phoenix and asks if he can join the family business out of the blue. I mean, it was not his career choice by design. So, of course, you're going to make room for your son, because I knew he had a lot of skill sets. And because everyone that he worked for, his boss would always tell me that Carson outworks everybody. And so he was proud to hear that. So I figured, okay, how can I take this kid that knows nothing about finances and maximize his operations? So he learned his way into the industry by being a great administrator, paying attention to details, because that's very important in my business. If on any given day, 5 clients are calling and asking for, or they want to give us more money to invest, or they want to take some money out of accounts to move somewhere, because it is their money. So we need to execute and never forget things. And there's a lot to manage. And so he's been very, very good at leading that charge. So, look, it's different because, he's my son, but he's proven himself. I told him when he started that I'm kind of a crummy teacher. So you've got to pick up the crumbs along the way and teach yourself and seek mentorship. And he did. So I hired him a couple of business coaches, not just for him, but also for me. And that's been a huge success, having 2 separate business coaches, one that focuses on marketing, the other on operations. And as a result, he's hired some good folks around him, and now time to get into asset management and hire his replacement. So I've heard horror stories about kids working in the family business, and I've heard success stories, and so far so good.
That's awesome. Did you have a coach prior to him coming on board, or that was the spark that ignited having a business coach?
I did. I hired a coach. It was a 2-person coaching outfit out of Ohio, of all places. They were we met at a conference 10 years ago, and that was a huge help. And I still keep in touch with that guy today. He's retired, nicest guy, and it's nice he likes to track our progress, because he took us when I was just me and 1 staff member, and so we've grown 4 times since that engagement. Now, again, he's no longer coaching us, but that was an impetus. And then I put him on pause and then realized I needed someone different. And then 2 years later, found a different coach, or coaches, plural. And I hired them right at the same time I brought Carson on. So we knew that, this relationship as father, son, boss, employee was, needed some extra guidance, so that it was, we can all hold each other accountable and grow together accordingly, because the possibilities are endless in our line of work. We're very blessed to have we don't have thousands of clients. We don't need thousands. In fact, we have less than 200 households in which we manage their assets. And although that grows, every month, we're seemingly adding on 1 or 2 new households. But this business should become his. So succession planning 101, this should become his. That's the plan. And so he's met or exceeded various benchmarks. He's got a few more benchmarks to meet, and we'll see. And the handoff, down the road is within his reach.
That's a great story. Because you're totally right. Sometimes the family dynamic can be not great. Just what it is. There's a lot of history and all kinds of emotions and all those kind of things that happen. So it's awesome to hear that you and Carson have made that work, and having the foresight of getting a business coach in the beginning stages, and then again when Carson came on. That's really great. That actually makes me think of having long-term relationship with clients and having foresight for that, right? So what are some of the things that you've seen with your clients that have given you that long-term track record to making them have peace of mind and happiness with their financials?
Well, I'll use an example, of the, 150 or 60 households that we manage. One that's very near or dear to my heart is one of gal that's been with us for 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. And when I first met her, it was through my previous campus advisors business. So I did college planning for her and her husband and their, 2 kids in high school that were college bound at the time. And long story short, I provided more than just college financial planning 20 years ago. That morphed into big picture financial planning and providing some life insurance and starting with, a couple $100,000 of their existing investments. Unfortunately, 2 years later, the husband dies completely unexpectedly. And, I get that phone call and like, oh my gosh, I better check to make sure that everything is, still in force and perfect. And, race to the office because I got that call at 6 a.m. And this was a guy that, I just adored, I love his wife, is great. She's gone through all that. She's an awesome client, even a better person. And she's got great kids and grandkids and a guy friend in her life. And so much has changed and morphed. I mean, we've done so much together. So processing the transition, providing life insurance to her and getting more investments with all my team. I mean, she's one of our biggest clients. She's extremely happy. I mean, we just kind of pinch each other because she was our guinea pig, so to speak. I mean, you look back 20 years ago, I was small potatoes, but we did so much right for her. And unfortunately, she lost her husband, but thank God we had that life insurance on him. That's what you have it for, is just in case. And then all the investments with all my different team between the stocks and bonds that my team in Minnesota, Stonebridge, manages, plus all the real estate that we do, and we have some other insured investments. Everything's gone well, and you don't get that just because I'm a silo operation, or a solo operation. So we grew together as a client, and she helped me grow, helped acquire staff. It's phenomenal. So I know that's just one of I have other stories, maybe not as dramatic as that, but I've been very honored that you think about. I've had clients even back just as I was departing New York Life days, because all I had was campus advisors, 20 plus years ago, and they stuck with me, and we did a lot of cool things together. But it was a unique thing that no one else did at the time, providing specific college financial planning, financial aid consulting, etc., and to therefore grow an entire business out of that and grow assets. Anyways, we're in a nice place, and I'm honored to continue to serve these clients. I'm older, they're older. We're getting some other clients' kids as clients, and so we're having fun.
That's it really magnifies the personal component that comes with what you do, which is we're all people, right? Like there's just
back to the slogan: people first, finances second. Exactly.
Yeah. No, it totally hits home. That story is very very fitting.
Relationships are rewarding. One thing I learned from a guy back in the insurance days was it's all about the relationships, and having that face to face. It kind of, I'm 61 years young, and I remember various TV commercials like 1-800-PIN-DROP, from Sprint back in the days. And there's another commercial I'll never forget for whatever reason. And that's, from American Airlines or United, whoever it was, some airline, but it was a major airline. And this guy, the boss, just lost an account, or was going to lose an account. And, and so he's talking to his staff, and he's showing his paper tickets, because that's all there was at the time. And the employee says, "Where are you going?" "Well, I'm going to fly and meet with so-and-so. This is not a phone call situation. I've got to be there." So the whole idea is it was about staying connected. Mm-hmm. And today it could be, well, I'm going to do a Zoom call to try to fix this situation. That guy was, so the whole pitch was, buy more airline tickets and travel with us, make that face-to-face connection. And I'll never forget that commercial. But I believe advertisements like that, which was more, that was really a business lifestyle learning moment as a kid. I don't know why, because I assure you that probably was produced 50 some years ago. And anyways, fast forward, people first, finances second, relationships are everything. And so we strive to be that focal point for anything money for people.
I couldn't agree more. It's something that I feel that I've learned more and more as I get older. The relationships that you have and the effort you put towards those relationships really do make such an immense amount of difference. Randy, this was a lot of fun. I hope you had a good time. I've learned a whole bunch of stuff. You may not have learned as much as I did, but it seemed like you had a good time.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's nice to be having a conversation like this. I've not been interviewed in quite some time, and like I said, I was not the camera talent when I was in the video production days 30 plus years ago. But we had we started and we scraped, and it was tough, but we finally figured out how to make a living and make enough customers very happy. But exiting that business was perfect timing. Was glad that I found this industry, and I hope that all I can hope for really is that we continue to strengthen the relationships with the existing clients that we have. We'll attract some others along the way, and that we're able to exceed their expectations, and that's what we strive to do. And I appreciate you, Justin, for asking me these questions, because it's given me a lot of thought to ponder ahead of this discussion. And if you ever feel that it's helpful to expand on certain things, great. I'd love to interview you, but I'd have to get wear your fancy red headphones to be able to do that.
That's right. The fancy headphones. I think Beats should sponsor the show. It'd make buying headphones a lot less expensive.
Well, I hope this podcast is helpful to your business, and it's that it's something that the listeners enjoy hearing. And
yeah,
hope we didn't go too far overboard here on our time limit.
No, totally fine. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the people before we say goodbye?
Oh goodness, that's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question.
I don't want to sound like a sales pitch or anything like that, but I think again, I appreciate anyone that's heard this. If they feel that there's if someone would like a second opinion on their investment approach or their style, love to meet you. And first talk on the phone, set up a time to meet, whether it's at a restaurant or here at our office. I mean, happy to do that. I mean, that's one of my other favorite stories. We've earned a lot of business that way, and we even if it takes a year, it doesn't matter. We're not in a rush. Just being able to evaluate what people have, help them understand what they have, so they know they can figure out why they have what they have, and if we can improve on it, great. If we can't, we're the first to let them know.
Oh, that's good advice. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, good old fashioned phone calls.
Sure.
We have landlines. We don't just work off of cell phones in our McCormick Ranch Scottsdale office. Phone number is, if you like, my number is 602-889-6500. But because of the beauty of technology, all you got to do is type in your little Google search bar, Clear Direction Investments. Should take you right to our website, and address is there, phone number. It's unbelievable. And so it's even weird because you have to pay people to clear out all the cobwebs on the internet just so that when you type in those three words, you don't have to remember cleardirectioninvestments.com. But if you remember Clear Direction Investments, all these search engines have done a phenomenal job of bringing up the URL that matches with that. It's unbelievable what tech has done these days. So, and we've been able to benefit from that. So as you have, it's crazy cool.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a blast, and I'm sure our listeners got at least some nuggets out of this, if not a whole bunch. And I will put all the phone number and your website and any social links into the show notes. So we'll have all that there. And until next time, adios.
Okay. Thanks, Justin.